Welcome everybody to the DC New 52 review. I want to thank you for tuning into this episode. I am your host, Paulie DC, and let's get into another one of these things. Today, I will discuss Batman Detective Comics Vol.2. It was titled Scare Tactics, and it was written by Tony S. Daniel with a plethora of talent covering the art, with issues 8 to 12 plus 0 and annual number 1 being released between June 2012 to January of 2013. The opening volume of this title certainly got into the nasty and grotesque, with gore and body horror galore, thanks to a new doll maker and his gang, Joker losing his face, and even a body-shedding original creation called Snakeskin. This second edition dove into more of the brain-bending mind control sides of Batman's world, involving some old foes and even original introductions. Issue number 8 opens on Catwoman smashing through a window distraughtly due to tripping out on Scarecrow's fear toxin, causing her to see the pursuing Batman as a monstrous poison ivy for some reason. But he's able to subdue her, and since the last time these two saw each other up to this point was Selina admitting that she's suicidal to him, Batsy gets the info he needs and takes off. Catwoman was apparently hired to steal anti-fear toxin capsules for a guy called Digger Jones, and while crossing the city, Batman meets Commish Gordon to mention Scarecrow contacted him personally since he's also involved in this mystery. Digger is found quickly, and after offering him as a meal to his fight dogs, he says he was to meet unknown people for animal experiments. Scumbag. Scarecrow next makes the mistake of giving up his location while speaking to Batman, and man, I love Tony Daniel's artwork. Anyway, being found, Scarecrow gets pounded on while saying this encounter will be different than their one on Harmon Island in Batman The Dark Knight Volume 1. Yeah, okay, sure it will. Just tell Batman what to do now. Good. Alright, a picture of a boy is the last clue. Batman heads over to a rundown warehouse where he takes down some Scarecrow goons, while inside, Eli Strange, the son of Hugo Strange, a lesser-known Dark Knight rogue, is in the middle of dealing some type of chemical, obviously stuff to rival Scarecrow's fear toxin, which is why he led Batman to this whole thing. And that's mainly because Eli is an absolute genius, which is stated by Batman to Gordon after he puts an end to Eli's plans and figures out that he's the boy in the picture that Scarecrow gave him. Interesting one-off to start things here. Issue number 9 has the Detective Comics Night of the Owls tie-in, and aside from us seeing some current Arkham Asylum patients plus Batman taking on a duo of unnamed Talons, a major part of this edition carries over into the later annual number 1 regarding Roman Sionis and his Black Mask, along with the control it has over Jeremiah Arkham. Issue number 10 kicks off a 3-part story beginning with an armored truck traveling through Gotham until it's suddenly held up by a quartet of Batman impersonators who have some pretty convincing suits, that's for sure. They're also armed to the teeth, gunning down a guard in order to steal the truck's contents, and when Commish Gordon and Harvey Bullock hit the scene, the bazookas come out, which garners the real Batman's attention after a faux one is shot, forcing the remaining trio into the sewers. The Dark Knight makes quick work of one of his imposters, however, a second one decides kamikaze is the best way to go, blowing himself up right next to Batman, which does literally nothing at all. As for the third fake Batman, he tries to fight the real thing with a knife until losing, and also decides to blow himself up via a ripcord, sending Batman into cover even though the first explosion didn't even tickle him. But whatever, the reason these 4 unknown foes pulled their heist was on the word of their boss, Mr. Toxic. Jumping back to earlier in the evening, Bruce Wayne was seen visiting his Volume 1 girlfriend, Charlotte Rivers, who was nearly killed in that book, and while she was recovering in hospital, Bruce was getting busy with Jada Hudson from Batman The Dark Knight Volume 1, and can't forget about Catwoman. Yeesh. Batman then later meets up with Gordon and Bullock to discuss the knockoff Batman stealing dangerous chemicals that recently melted a couple of scientists at Dunhill Labs, where other experiments involving a Hadron Collider and Atom Smasher tests are happening, which is told to Alfred by Bruce next. Watch the Treehouse of Horror 23 for more on that science stuff. Wink wink. Obviously, Dunhill Labs is Batman's top candidate of interest now, and when there, he finds the place empty, but the Hadron Collider is fully functional, with Hugh Martyr, someone introduced in Detective Comics number 2, inside of it, plus Mr. Toxic reveals himself hitting Batman with some kind of X-ray attack. Issue number 11 continues right from the previous one, with Batman still being blasted by Mr. Toxic until he uses a gadget from the trusty utility belt, this time a energy deflector that sends his foe flying, and now that we're getting an extended fight scene with this guy, yes, he looks exactly like Gasman from Volume 1, right down to the skull and crossbones on his helmet. So why the name change? I don't know and I don't care. Batman goes on to smash Mr. T's helmet, with it revealed to be Hugh Martyr. What the hell? The other Martyr doesn't survive whatever the hell he's doing to himself, now saying, snap voice, he's got the power, but Batman can't follow up on this because Lucius Fox and SWAT enter the area, so he takes off thanks to a Bat helicopter save from Alfred. Once back at the cave, Bruce gets thoroughly showered in order to rinse off all the radiation, then he goes back to Wayne Tower to speak with Lucius about the whole Hugh and Hadron situation, since Martyr's company and research is currently under Wayne Enterprises. So, over to Dunhill Labs, where Bruce meets head scientist Arthur Manhart, who tells him his dead colleague Alan Smart knew too much about certain things, along with espionage regarding LexCorp, to which a specimen of the stuff the fake Batman stole is taken for analysis. Except that's not all. When outside, a hobo gets Bruce's attention, showing himself to be Professor Smart hiding deeply under cover, and he says Martyr used to be his associate, having created clone versions of himself seen on another page in the morgue, having been the fake Batmans all along. But more importantly, they were also test subjects for particle accelerator experiments. Okay. As for the real Martyr, he somehow gets brought back to life by Mr. Toxic after a couple coroners are killed, but he cannot breathe properly, so a set of freaky incubation armor is given to him. Things then wrap up with Gordon and Batman meeting briefly to compare notes, then inside the Batcave, tests are done on the Dunhill sample, until it decides to become violently reactive and unstable. Issue number 12 concludes this story, and Batman is still being attacked by a chemical reaction, which was a new one for me. But thanks to the organism, or whatever it is, being highly absorbent, Batman lights it on fire, resulting in it eating the flame, thus destroying itself. Alrighty then. Batman goes on to open a hologram USB drive containing Alan Smart, documenting his time with Hugh Martyr, who has a genetic disease and is trying to cure it, explaining why he's experimenting on his clones with the same condition. Damn. Speaking of him, he attacks Dunhill Labs, killing a detective and immediately finding Manhart with Mr. Toxic, who now believes he's equal to his creator. Classic clone problems. Batman, meanwhile, tracks his current enemies using a glider jetpack to get to a location faster. Only problem is, Martyr has already forced Manhart to begin another experiment. So, Batman smashes into the place, fantastic double page art by the way, right as the duo of Hues are morphing together in pretty gross manner, but thanks to some sort of antidote concocted in the Batcave getting tossed into this abomination, which briefly turns it into an even more disgusting looking thing, the crisis is averted, and then a few seconds later, Martyr pops out like a butterfly from a chrysalis, completely harmless now, so Batman puts him back in his armor and drags him away. Detective Comics Annual Number 1 begins at Arkham Asylum with Commish Gordon breaking the news to Jeremiah Arkham that the Black Mask, Roman Sionis, duped him during the Night of the Owls and had escaped that evening. You'll also see why Arkham was talking to Roman's empty bed momentarily. For now, Batman is taking on the last remaining member of Sionis' False Face Society called Mad Bull, and that group has been around since Batman number 152, December 1962, by Bill Finger and Sheldon Moldoff. Anyway, Mad Bull gets chased across a carnival to the carousel that has all the horse heads eerily missing, and after Batman puts him down, it's realized he's currently a mind-controlled puppet. A bit of detective work goes down next, first with Gordon and Bullock paying Clayface a visit in Arkham to bribe him with an antidote for his condition, which I never knew he needed. But anyway, he folds pretty quick and gives info about Black Mask escaping. Meanwhile, Bruce gets some horse riding in before finding out Mad Bull's mask is what had the guy brain warped. And thanks to the Black Mask in the New 52 having really powerful mind controlling abilities, this info leads to Roman Sionis' big return. He was created by Doug Moenick and Tom Mandrake in Batman number 386, August 1985. Part of this return also involves the Mad Hatter, who was last seen at the end of Batman The Dark Knight Vol.1, and he's in clown makeup here due to tricking a person named Edgar Dempsey so he can deliver him to Black Mask with his new circus goon squad. This whole connection is explained next with Batman and Gordon swapping info saying Dempsey was Roman's assistant but betrayed him, with Mad Hatter wanting to join in on everything, vying for better position. So, Batman finds Tweedledee and Tweedledum beating their boss's location out of them both rather excessively. These two really are just punching bags sometimes. Back over to Black Mask, he's having Hatter tossed around and demands that Edgar tell him where the rest of his False Face Society masks are, which takes them all to a museum with two circus people getting names, but that's it. It makes sense, they were pretty throwaway-ish. Things get crazy amongst the group very fast when Dempsey reveals he's got a new partner and Black Mask cannot hurt him, also that he turned his masks into warrior-looking ones, seen on a bunch of ambushing attackers, yet that still can't stop Roman from killing him. That plan really sucked. A whole lot of setup for nothing. However, Mad Hatter now reveals that he's running this show and practically gets Black Mask to surrender until Batman interrupts with his go-to entrance. He breaks more glass than a die-hard film crew. A full-out brawl then begins with our hero taking on the circus folk while Mad Hatter and Black Mask get into an intense hypnosis contest right up until Batman stops them both. We don't really see what happened to Hatter here, but Roman's mask seems to be damaged in the fight, causing him to flip out and the mask to glow white with no other explanation. Sionis is then taken back to Arkham where he seems to immediately manipulate Jeremiah with his ebony mask. Issue number 0 was included in this volume, and it pertains to Bruce Wayne's final stop in the Himalayas while training around the world in order to become Batman. And this story is 10 years ago, with Bruce meeting Master Shihan Matsuda, who has a longer title than Daenerys Targaryen. Also, please don't ask me how to lay out Batman's training origin years. Isaac Newton would scratch his head at that one. Anyhow, after being accepted by Matsuda, young Mr. Wayne not only trains, but also meets the charming swordsmith Mio and Shihan's wife Sama, who he tells about his previous training stops, with some of them being seen in other titles. Now, in the following scenes, the main teaching Bruce will gain from this mentor is to have no want or emotion for intimacy, because it'll make him weak. It sort of just played on the fact that Batman has never had a long-time true love in his life. Bruce then continues to see Mio, even going against Matsuda's word, wanting to get closer to her, but quickly starts to think it is a mistake. So it's back to training, where he goes on to impress Shihan for the first time, and when back home, Sama tells him he can achieve what he wants while still having feelings for people. A notion he contemplates that night, going on to decide Mio is worth pursuing. And this sends him to her house, where she is invited back to Matsuda's place. Only problem there is Miss Mio is actually a skilled ninja who plans to kill Shihan, gravely wounding him in the gambit, but is unsuccessful due to Bruce, who basically kills her thanks to smashed glass. And the second twist then comes in, showing that Sama orchestrated the whole thing, and she tries to take out Bruce until her husband takes her life in his final act, leaving 3 corpses at Bruce's feet. Oh boy. There were 2 short side stories here, and this one was pretty great, giving us a look at Alfred tending to Wayne Manor while Bruce's whereabouts were unknown while he trained, but it also brings in the Kane side of his family. Martha Wayne was a Kane before becoming a Wayne, meaning her brother is Jacob Kane, who's Kate Kane, or Batwoman's dad, giving us the Bat-cousin connection, and many times Gotham is said to be in Kane County, meaning that family dates back a while. P.S. The Kanes are apparently very ruthless. Extremely ruthless, actually, because they've been sending their sleazy lawyer, Mr. Shaw, to Wayne Manor constantly in order to try and persuade Alfred into giving it to the Kanes. Doesn't matter for now though, since Bruce makes his triumphant return to the city with a lot of new skills and quite an idea on how to clean it up. Side story number 2 starts by showing us the Joker's skinned off face, which happened in issue number 1, and it's still tucked away in the GCPD's evidence basement, wherein Harvey Bullock welcomes a rookie cop, Nancy Strode, who will be seen again, and she's pulled night watch duty, so while down there, Harvey decides to prank her in a seriously nasty fashion, having Joker's face laugh with a planted microphone. Strode reacts pretty well, punching Bullock in the face. However, the real owner of the nightmare skin looks to have returned to Gotham, and he wants it back. A final part of this book was a multi-chapter crime caper starring Two-Face Harvey Dent, so I'll quickly mention he debuted way back in Detective Comics number 66, August 1942, by Bob Kane. Here, he's shambling down an alley due to being shot and enters some place belonging to a Vinny, who says Dent was on an enlightenment tour. While he now gets medical treatment, things jump back 13 days with Harvey and his lawyer McMurphy grilling the lawyer to a nemesis of Two-Face named Dominic Storano. And grilling is an apt word here because Mr. Harden is tortured under flame but not killed thanks to Harvey's signature coin flipping in his favor. A few nights later, Storano meets Harvey due to wanting a truce and will back off if he does a job for him involving whacking some woman. Wow. Two-Face decides to get info on things from a tipster named Maurice, and after meeting his interesting choice in bodyguard called Sweetheart, everyone inside the bar is killed, including Harvey's guys, all while he slaps intel about someone going by Freak Show Tommy out of Maurice. Now, this is where things get oddly interesting, as a group of deadly monks are responsible for slaying everyone and go on to kidnap Harvey. An unspecified amount of time passes with Mr. Dent waking up in dark quarters and goes on to be tested by the leader of the monks, who says he's not completely evil and his light is still powerful. Harvey really was a good district attorney at one time. Two-Face then gets a solid pipe smoking session in before being kicked out by the monk leader, saying he can't fully help him until he's faced all of his demons. Don't hold your breath, bro. Storano is seen after this with Freak Show Tommy because they're brothers, and he's also wheelchair bound, and mentions an occurrence from Nightwing's Night of the Owls tie-in with a councilman dying at the hands of a Talons, not hands, but talons. The girl Dominic appeared to want to set up Two-Face for, named Lydia, shows up next, only to get savagely crushed under a door by Harvey, coming in guns raised, causing Freak Show to go full gun show in his wheelchair. A final shootout then begins with Two-Face somehow getting shot only once, so he goes on to kill Dominic first, just before Tommy truly becomes a show of freakiness and is put down as well. This then brings us back to where we started, as Harvey returns to the monk leader, wounded, and in the end tells Two-Face he was hired to kill him, but chose not to. So he gets a coin flip from Mr. Dent with no good luck. However, he eerily vanishes as he's shot at. Alright. This plot had a bit of everything. Solo stories that introduced newcomers like the Court of the Owls and Eli Strange, who was seen last doing work with Catwoman in a Volume 1 side story. Those two were pretty standard. The Hugh Martyr, Mr. Toxic 3-parter had lots of science jargon and some need for detective work, I suppose. The Zero issue was pretty good. I did like seeing Batman's New 52 training years, and the annual #1 had a bit too much going on. The circus gang, the False Face Society people, plus Mad Hatter's Warrior Mask group, all to be wrapped up with Batman ending things in a couple scenes. The side stories, though, were pretty great additions. The darker Kane family side, a hint that the Joker's return is imminent, and Two-Face's solo saga was much better than his first appearance in Batman the Dark Knight Volume 1. Now for dialogue, if I were to rate it on the known internet scale, I'd put it in B tier. Batman was pretty intense throughout, Two-Face held his own just fine in his story, and honestly, all the other villains just contributed accordingly. Martyr was kinda forgettable, Black Mask is ruthless as usual, Batman's allies did their thing, while the Zero issue and beyond contained the best script work. Ending on the art, it had a bunch of talent taking care of all the content, and it was clean, nicely detailed, all the double-page spreads were wonderful, the big cast of characters looked well designed, and the final stuff by Szymon Kudranski I thought came out phenomenal. That will do it all for today's review, and if you've watched until the end here, I want to personally thank you for that, and to please like, share, and subscribe, please follow me on all my social media platforms, and to please join me next time for Aquaman Volume 2.